All right, guys, here's the scenario. The grid is down. It has hit the fan. There's been a major event. Things are bad. We're checking out our supplies, and today we're talking about ammo. All right, guys, we're back and we're with Lane Kelly of Roundtable Munitions. We're talking about ammunition. We're talking about this grid down scenario, Lane. Right. Things have gone bad. Obviously, we want to take stock of all of our supplies.
Sure.
But you being an ammo guy and me being a gun guy, today we're talking about that ammunition. So the scenario is, do you have ammunition? Have you stocked up? I know you do because you make it.
I hope so.
And I do. I've got a lot myself. But here's the question that we want to pose to our viewers. When it comes to ammunition, have you stocked up? If you have you stocked up enough? Here's the second question we're going to discuss. If you haven't stocked up or haven't stocked up enough, can you find it in your area? Can you scavenge it? I mean, things are bad.
Trade for it?
Trade for it. These are other things. And the third scenario is, if you don't have it, if you haven't stocked up, if you can't find it, can you make it? And that's definitely your area of expertise. So let's back up just a little bit and talk about that first question. Ammo, do you have enough of it? Have you stockpiled your ammo? And how much is enough? And what caliber, should it be? It's going to be different for everybody, I would assume. What's your opinion?
I think everybody that is going to be in the prepping world, for lack of a better term, should have some ammo on hand. Now, how much? That's a personal preference. You probably have more ammo than I do, but I'm a realist. I don't want so much ammo that I can't move it or can't carry it.
That's really interesting that you bring that up, and that's something that we probably don't think about. We may have to relocate. We may have to take our stuff with us, and ammo is heavy.
It's heavy. It's heavy.
Yeah.
And how much practicing are you going to do after the event or whatever? I mean, I don't hate to call it an event, but
yeah,
are you going to be practicing? So how much of your ammo is, what kind of ammo is it? Is it target rounds or is it self-defense rounds?
Yeah. The ammo is there for a reason. It's there, right, so we can defend ourselves, our family, our property.
Exactly.
And to hunt for food as well, right? So the caliber is probably going to be different for folks. The amount of ammo might be different. I keep my AR platform magazines loaded so that the ammo is already there, ready to use. I can insert it, shoot it, ready to go. I actually keep a lot of I have a lot of Glock platform 9mm firearms, and I keep those magazines loaded as well, actually.
Sure, I do too.
Quite a bit.
Do you keep any ammo for guns that you don't have?
That's a really good question. Let's talk about that. So you just asked me, do I keep ammo for guns that I don't have? Probably a little bit, but maybe more so accidentally than on purpose. But why do you ask?
What makes you think you might be fighting with your own gun?
Aha, there I go assuming again.
So like myself, I keep a couple of boxes of oddball calibers.
Okay.
Stuff I might have a gun for, but I don't really stockpile. But I always like to make sure that I have, a box or two for the old deer rifle 30-06.
Okay.
Or maybe, I don't own a 7.62 by 39, but maybe some 7.62 by 39 rounds because they're common.
True. Good point.
So you never know when you might pick one up.
Yeah. So do you have not only ammo, do you have enough ammo for your own opinion, for what you're going to use it for? Do you have other calibers of ammo? And if you don't, what's our next option to try to find it, right? I mean, we're talking about a really terrible scenario where maybe you're fighting for your life. Maybe you have to go scavenge it. Can you people who don't know who you are and where you are probably going to first look for a gun store, a sporting goods store, and try to scavenge ammo.
Yeah.
Probably going to go pretty quick.
It's going to go
very fast. People find out quickly, and it's probably going to dry up, disappear.
I think the barter system is going to come into play heavily in that scenario, where maybe your neighbor's hungry and you have a chicken and he wants to buy a chicken from you, and you say, well, do you have some ammo?
All right.
I'll give you a chicken for a box or whatever.
And up here in Grundy County, Tennessee,
that can very well happen.
That could very well happen.
In fact, that could happen tomorrow.
Right. So we've discussed the question of ammo. Do you have it? Do you have enough? If you don't have it, where do you find it? Might not be so easy to find. And the third scenario is, your expertise, can you make that ammo? Let's talk about that.
Okay.
So, Lane, we're in your little piece of paradise here.
Right.
We've got some very sophisticated ammunition reloading machines here. You gave me a little tour earlier. There's a lot going on here. Tell us in a nutshell, before we get into that last question of loading your own ammo, tell me about Roundtable Munitions here.
We started up as a small business. I've been reloading since I was 12 years old.
Wow.
Had an unfortunate job experience with a company I was with, and we had been kind of playing around with the idea of going public, selling brass and ammo, and it just kind of developed into that. My wife and I are the owners. We work it together. Most of the time it's just me because she does work full-time elsewhere. So we're a small company. We do a lot of custom orders for people. I don't have ammo on our website. Just because I can't stock it. I'm a small guy. Gotcha. But we have a lot of customers that call me up and say, "Hey, we want 1,000 of this or 200 of that." Or,
wow! So
we just fill the orders and send them out.
So you're fortunate to have that word of mouth and as business. You mentioned you learned at 12 years old.
Yes.
How did you learn so young?
A friend took me skeet shooting. It was a friend of the family, and I was just fascinated. We went to his garage, and he had multiple Mech 600 Juniors sitting in there with shotgun shells. Yeah. And so for Christmas, my mother and father bought me a Mech 600 Junior shotgun shell reloader, and that's what I started on. And I had it set up in my closet in my bedroom, and I loaded and shot that old Remington 1100.
Yep.
Till it still shoots, but I shot it a lot.
It's one of my favorite shotguns, by the way.
So I just branched from there as I got older. I branched from there into the center fire handgun and center fire rifle stuff. I haven't purchased a box of ammo to shoot through one of my guns in years and years and years.
You don't have to, do you?
Don't have to. I might buy one every now and then to test it, to see what they're doing, to see how my ammo compares.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I don't have any stocked ammo that's store-bought other than 22s.
All right, so Lane, I'm behind the camera now because I want to know about all these awesome machines. Can you give us a quick rundown of each one and what they do?
Yeah, real quick. So we've got a Dillon 650. I do some most of my large pistol and large rifle loadings on here. Here we have a Mark 7 Revolution. This machine is dedicated to 308 currently. We mass produce a 308 round, which the AR-10 guys really like. Here we have a Dillon 1050 set up on an ammo bot, just general loading, general purpose machine. This is my primary machine. It is also a Dillon 1050 with an ammo bot.
The ammo bot provides the automation, right? So
you
don't have to hand crank it.
That's correct. Then we have a Mark 7 drive unit on a Dillon 1050 here. This is primarily where I do most of my 223 loading. Then we have another Dillon 650. Now this is a hand pull. It's not automated. Low volume stuff that's small primered I will do on this machine. Scooting on around, we have another ammo bot on a Dillon 1050 that I do most of my processing on. We actually run all pre-processed brass when we load, so everything's deprimed, resized, and ready to go into those machines. And we have a single stage press here, and I do my true custom loads, my deer hunting loads. I actually load those guys one at a time, and people really like my hunting ammo.
Awesome. I'd really like to talk about some of this basic reloading stuff and how we can learn to actually load our own ammo. So
sure.
Let's get into that.
Okay.
All right, so Lane, show us this basic equipment and what's involved.
All right, Denny. If you're going to load at home, or you're wanting to get into the hobby, or you want to have it as a backup for your scenarios, the main piece of equipment you're going to have is a reloading press. There's multiple manufacturers. I would recommend probably buying one of the starter kits. It's going to have most everything in it on the base level that you need to get started safely. From there, you're going to need a set of dies that's going to size your brass for the caliber that you're loading. You're going to need some primer supplies, the flip tray, maybe a hand primer, depending on how you want to reprime your brass. Obviously, you're going to need powder. There's various powders here. They all have specific usages. You're going to need bullets, some sort of measuring device. Measuring is very important. I would not skimp on this one. If you're going to put a little extra money in it, buy you a good set of calipers to measure with. And you're going to need a scale. You're going to need a way to measure and weigh that powder. Another thing you might want is a powder dispenser. Okay, and there you saw in the previous shots the powder dispensers on all these presses. There's all kinds of them out there. There probably one will come in your kit. You can use that as well.
All right, Lane, I see we've got some books here. We've got some reloading guides here. Pretty important stuff, right?
Very important stuff. If you don't know anything about reloading, the first thing you should buy, quite frankly, is a good manual. Bullet manufacturers make them. Powder manufacturers make them.
You got one from Nosler.
Nosler, one from Lyman.
Yep.
Hornady's got them. You can get them online. I have them on my phone.
Right.
You can scroll through it on your phone. Sierra's got them on your phone as well. Multiple sources of information are always good to have, and generally the front part of the manuals is basically kind of a how-to.
Okay.
And I would
actually I'll do a close-up here for the camera. It actually shows steps, step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yes. Really interesting. So it's really step by step.
It very much so is, and you can be self-taught. You don't necessarily have to have a class, but you're going to want to read very closely and ask a lot of questions. Find friends that reload. Find somebody that you know that can give you good quality information and stay within the recipes. This is also a recipe book.
Right.
It will tell you
the
maximum amount of powder with that particular bullet in that particular case in that particular rifle.
Because that's important because why?
You can overcharge.
Yeah.
You can make a round too hot, which
bad things can happen.
Bad things can happen. So I would always follow my manual, start low and work up. Okay. Start low, shoot your target, shoot across your chronograph. If you don't have a chronograph, start low and work up and start looking for pressure signs, which you will learn about as you read these books.
Okay, cool. Next up, I want to talk about components.
Just a little bit. We're going to start out with bullets. There are lots of different kinds of bullets out there. Basically, though, we've got a full metal jacket, non-expandable, mostly used for target rounds and that type of thing. You have expandable hunting bullets. Excellent for hunting. You have a varmint style bullet. These bullets generally tend to come apart whenever they hit their target. Then you have like your match grade target, designed for longer ranges and superior accuracy. Then you can go into the pistol rounds where you might have a hollow point or just a full metal jacket. When you're deciding to reload for yourself, make sure that you choose a bullet that is going to do what you want the projectile to do. Is it a hunting bullet or a target bullet? Moving forward, we're going to look at primers. Okay, primers are basically your bang switch. Your firing pin hits the primer sets off a charge, it ignites the powder in the case, which propels the bullet out of the barrel. And I'm going to try to show you guys some primers. Some people may not know exactly what they look like, but those are primers. They're very small. They tend to scatter themselves on their own greatly across large, vast amounts of carpet. So be careful with them.
So we talked about some of the basics, some of the basic equipment you need. We talked about bullets, talked about primers. How about powder?
That's a good question. There are a lot of different powders available. And there are a lot of different powders that are very specific for very specific things.
Right. Because of the burn rate.
Rates. There's pistol powders. There's rifle powders. Every application is different. And that's where you're going to need, the user is going to need to do some research and pick a powder that's suitable for the cartridge that they are trying to load for. And that's all going to come out of these books.
Yeah. The books will help us decide, right?
If you can't find it in your book, almost every powder manufacturer has a website that you can log into and look up their recommendations straight off of their website.
Okay. Let's talk about the case a little bit, because we really haven't talked about that case. Let me grab a 223 case, for instance. Talk about how do we prepare that case to be reloaded?
You have to take the old primer out. Okay. I guess the easiest thing to do is going to be walk you through how we do it here at Roundtable.
Yeah, great. Let's do that.
And the first thing I do with it, they come to me dirty in a 55-gallon drum.
Right.
And we take them and separate them out and get all the 223s out, and then we put them in a cement mixer filled with corn cob. And we run them for about an hour. And this
you can run a lot of cases through a cement mixer, can't you?
Yes, you can.
I've had the regular old pumpkin size tumbler, and how many cases can you get in that cement tumbler?
An entire 5-gallon bucket, so you're a little over 3,000.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's an awful lot. And they only have to stay in for an hour. We just want to knock off.
And they look really good. I mean, that looks brand new.
Yeah, that's the final product.
Yeah.
We got a lot of work to do between here and there.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to knock the schmutz off of it, as we call it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That way it's suitable to put in our machines. It keeps the dirt out of our machines. And that's why we pre-clean.
Okay.
Then in 223 case.
So it's tumbling like people would tumble, like if you a river rock or something you want to shine.
Right. A vibratory tumbler for the average user is more than adequate.
So Lane, this is a vibratory tumbler here. You turn the switch on. And so you're telling me that this would be adequate for the majority of folks that are going to reload?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That is plenty good enough to clean brass. Clean and shiny brass doesn't make it shoot any better.
Right. And there are commercial grade tumblers, and there are smaller tumblers. I know I bought one from, I think, Midway or somebody years ago that was small and it worked for me. So you've tumbled the brass.
Right. Then we're going to knock the primer out.
Okay.
In 223, most of them have a military crimp in them. So we're going to run a swage rod in the base of it so that we can seat a new primer in easily. And that crimp ring is very difficult to see, but if you're involved with loading much at all, you will find out very fast that unless you swage or trim or cut that primer crimp out, you can't get a new primer in it.
All right, so we tumbled the brass, we knocked the primer out, we've done what we need to do to the primer pocket to make sure we can seat another primer in there. What's the next step?
The next step is actually going to be to size this case to bring it back into spec.
And we actually need a die for that.
You're going to have
it has expanded a little bit.
It has expanded a little bit, and in its current form, it will probably chamber in the rifle it was originally fired in, but it probably won't chamber in anything else. So if you have multiple guns, but anyway, you need to size it. Put your die in, pull the handle, and it sizes it. Okay, it's that easy. I use like an Imperial lube wax.
It lubricates the outside of the case a little bit.
Right,
so
it's going to prevent it from sticking in the die, which you have to do on rifle cases.
Right,
it is a requirement. You resize it, and then you're going to want to measure it and see if it needs to be trimmed. The trim lengths are all in the book. They will tell you. You can then get your cutter, cut it to length, and you're basically at that point ready to put a primer in it, powder, and load it.
Cool. I'm gonna grab the camera and let's show the folks what that process.
A little bit of wax, put it on the case. Now this happens to be a 30 carbine case and not a 223, but you're going to place it in the shell holder.
Do you actually feel a little resistance?
You can feel a little bit of resistance, and now this case is sized. It's going to be in spec, and it's going to be ready to accept powder and bullet and primer, and then it's ready for the range. All right, so now that we have the case sized, we need to put a primer in it. So this is a hand primer. We're going to wiggle a primer down into the spot. We're going to put the casing in. We're going to squeeze it. That seated the primer, and there's the final product. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we have our powder charge selected. We have our powder selected. We're going to use a funnel to place right on top of the brass. We're going to grab our powder charge, and we're just going to pour it into the case. Now that we've got our primer in, our brass is sized, our powder's in, the bullet I'm using, this is a target round, and we're going to set the bullet into the case. And then we're going to take the bullet and the case, set it into the die. A little bit of resistance. We're going to seat the bullet. And what we have is a round that is ready to be fired.
All right, Lane, well, I have a handful of your beautiful 9mm ammo. You got your 30 carbine ammo there. I say we go test that out a little bit.
We should.
Very educational. So now, guys, you have an idea of what's involved, if you didn't already, in loading your own ammo. You mentioned you wanted to talk about availability of components. What do you want to say about that?
Make sure when you're deciding that you want to load, or that you're maybe wanting to add a caliber to what you already load, make sure that you can find the components that you need to load it. What I mean by components: powder, primer, brass, bullets. COVID has created a ton of issues in the ammunition industry, and that's a lot of shortages.
Oh yeah, still are.
Primers became next to impossible to find. Certain powders became next to impossible to find. In fact, there's still some that I really like I can't even get.
Wow.
And what I'm seeing through some of the manufacturers and people that I deal with, it's going to be 2024 before they're available. So make sure that you can get the components for what you're trying to load before you go spend a whole bunch of money on stuff. Check your books, check your manuals, educate yourself, make an informed decision, and then move forward.
Speaking of money, can I save money loading my own ammo?
What little you save, you're probably going to wind up shooting. All right. So the thing with
because you're going to make more.
You're going to make more.
Okay.
You know, instead of maybe paying twice as much for your ammo, you're going to make twice as much and shoot twice as much.
But maybe per round, maybe we can save a little bit.
In theory, yes, you can save some money by reloading, but it's nice too. Even more important than that is you can customize it however you want.
Yeah.
Competition shooters like to custom their loads.
Yeah.
Hunting people like to shoot a particular bullet.
Yeah.
You can just customize it and just learn how to load and go with it.
Cool. We've been extremely educational. Tell the folks where they can find out more about you online.
You can find us at roundtablemunitions.com. I've got an email there. We don't do orders online. Okay. Everything is by phone or message.
Got to call you up?
Yep, got to call me up or shoot me a text message. Phone's hard for me to hear when in the shop when everything's running. I usually have ear protection on and this kind of stuff. So if you do call, leave me a voicemail. I'll reach back out to you. Love to hear from you and love to help you out and get you some ammo.
Awesome. Appreciate Lane. Lane Kelly, Roundtable Munitions. And I think we need to go shoot a little bit.
We should.
Yeah. Don't forget to hit those buttons, guys. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Hit that notification bell so you know when we drop new videos. And we're going to go shoot now. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. I got your 30 carbine.
We're gone.
Yes! We finally did it!
Musicians. Cue the banjos. This is going to be perfect this time. Absolutely perfect. I will not bunch of musicians
leak this up,
here.
I promise. Like I did the last 15 times.
Musicians.
Munitions.
We don't play music here. Just saying. Take 3 on
Take
this
357 because Chapman can't say fucking.
What's the name of my business?
Roundtable Munitions.
What is it?
Munitions.
Okay.
Not.
What have you got in your hand?
Ammunition.
There you go.
It's Roundtable Munitions, damn it. All right.